Heaven's Gate.
Yes.
We've done Jonestown.
Oh my God. The weird gay one where they go to Hawaii eventually. The other one where they go to Hawaii.
Is that the one where he dies hang gliding and they're like, oh no.
That was the
but
Source family.
They're finally happy that he's dead and you hear them on the audio.
Yes.
Oh no, he's hurt.
I went to Hawaii and I met a guy from that documentary from the Source family. He was very creepy and weird.
Can we leave Hawaii alone, especially the cults? They don't want us there. Go away, everyone.
Oh my God, they went to Hawaii and Mother God too.
They did.
Fam, so much shenanigans over on the Patreon. We also covered the Lacey Peterson doc and The Staircase and Serial Season 1 and Jodi Arias. And it's literally 450 full ad-free bonus episodes. You get them all right away when you sign up, by the way.
Yeah, we also do Drag Bingo every month, but I don't know if we have time to talk about that.
The Drag Bingo is growing and growing and growing. And we're getting it's just the funnest time of the week.
It is
I'm
very
obsessed.
fun.
Patreon.com/TrueCrimeObsessed, or just go to our website, click on the Patreon link. Girl, I'm not ready, but what are we talking about today?
We are doing, it's called Sins of the Parents, the Crumbly trials. It's on Hulu.
It's a groundbreaking case that's resulted in 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter charges against both James and Jennifer Crumbly.
Authorities say the shooter used a handgun his father had bought just days earlier.
The first parents in America to be charged in a school shooting.
Parents of the shooter at Oxford High School, who killed 4 students and wounded others in November 2021.
There are very rare circumstances where gross negligence rises to the level where you can be charged with a serious crime. This is one of them.
Crumbly's defense has said a conviction would set a dangerous precedent for unwitting parents.
This case is very different. This is about parents who largely ignored their son, neglected his cries for help, and then bought him a gun.
It really was just common sense. You don't get to walk away from that. You just don't. That's a criminal act.
Before we start, we do eventually get the full names of the victims, but I just wanted to say them now because we do hear them a little. The way this documentary is done in the beginning and throughout is it's a lot of it is at court. And so people refer to the victims sometimes just by their first names. I just want to say the 4 kids that died in this school shooting are Hannah St. Juliana, Tate Meyer, Justin Schilling, and Madison Baldwin.
Yeah, and we'll learn more about them in a little bit.
For sure will, but you might hear their names just as a first name. I just wanted to get the full names said before we started.
Yep.
I mean this truly. I'm not being hyperbolic. This documentary opens with the most insane 911 call we've ever heard.
Yeah, and usually documentaries open with a 911 call. It's not uncommon.
Yes.
But this one is like, you kind of can't, every word you kind of can't believe what you're hearing. And that is a major through line through this documentary. Like, things just get worse and worse.
Worse and worse. The 911 dispatcher is very calm.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm at my house. There's an active shooter situation going on at the high school. My son goes to the high school. I have a missing gun at my house. I think my son took the gun. I don't know if it's him. I don't know what's going on. I'm really freaking out.
I don't know what's going on. I'm totally freaking out.
Right. So we will get back to that 911 call. We get on-screen text that says, in 2024, Jennifer and James Crumbly stood trial for involuntary manslaughter charges in connection with the mass shooting committed by their son. These parents are the first parents in America to be charged in a school shooting.
I hope they are fucking not the last.
They better not be the last. I mean, this family, I am so, like, I'm speechless, clearly.
Yes.
But I can't believe what they allowed to happen and the what they did. I can't believe it.
And what is so groundbreaking about this case to me, and we'll talk more about it as we go through, and especially as a parent, because this is the first time this ever happened that these parents were held accountable because of what they ignored, what they didn't pay attention, the obvious signs that their son was going to put other kids at risk.
And their culpable role in it.
If this changes the way parents handle their troubled kids going forward, it's a major win here.
Yeah, even if it's like, well, shit, I don't want to go to prison.
Oh,
like, even
right,
if it's
even
in the most cynical way.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll take anything we can do to start protecting these kids. So this is the Crumbly family. The mother is Jennifer. The father is James. They have a son who everyone in this documentary refers to as the shooter. They have 2 dogs. The family, they loved skiing. They loved game nights. They loved holidays. They had like a lot of traditions.
This is all bullshit. None of this is true.
None of it, because we will learn what the home was really like.
Yeah, and it's truly terrifying. And like you cannot feel, I don't know. I'm very conflicted. I don't think you can feel sympathy for the shooter, but when you see how this kid grew up, it's what I've said in the past, you can see how the monster is created.
Yeah, just care about your kids.
Yeah.
It goes back to that. Like, just care. Just be concerned.
Yeah. We learned
the Crumbleys were a middle-class family. They vacationed together. They worked.
I was a marketing director at a real estate acquisition company. My husband I had a hard time holding down a job. I was doing DoorDash.
She says her husband, James, had a hard time holding down a job. He was doing DoorDash. We're going to find out that the parents are suffering from severe alcoholism.
Yes.
And I think that is very clearly part of the reason why the dad can't hold down a job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to know. It's just the home was very, very unstable.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we meet a lot of people, and it is a little disjointed at the beginning because we're meeting everybody's attorneys. We're seeing clips from the trial. It becomes much more cohesive in a few minutes. But we meet James, the dad's attorney, and she really... Boo, boo. That's a big old...
Everyone needs an attorney, but not the way she... Or is it Jennifer's attorney who I hate? Or
No,
both of them?
Jennifer's is worse, but this one is pretty bad.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And she's just saying...
James was a great father. He spent time with his son. No one is perfect, but James did the best he could. They spent a lot of time together, especially during COVID. Even the morning of the shooting, James drove his son to school, which was not abnormal. That happened a lot.
She says, and I quote, even the morning of the shooting, he drove his son to school, which was not abnormal. It happened all the time.
You don't get a medal for being a parent and doing
She wants like good dad points for dropping the kid off at school.
Yeah, you know what I did? I walked and fed Fiona this morning.
I know. You are a great dog.
And I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying, like, you have responsibilities in your life and you do them. Choices were made and you do the thing you're supposed to do. Like, great, I showed up to work today. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you do the things. That's what you're supposed to do.
Especially, we're going to find out all the ways in which this dad failed the shooter. You know what I mean? Like, these are just all pieces of human fucking garbage.
That's an old, and I won't do it because that's also in The Office too, but that's an old Chris Rock bit where it's like, you don't get credit for doing things you're supposed to do.
No.
So we're at Oxford High School and his dad, like we learned, drove him to school that day. And by 12:50 p.m., the shooting starts.
Yeah, we learned at 12:50 he went into a bathroom with a backpack. He went into the handicap stall, took out the 9mm gun out of his bag. He loaded it, racked it, whatever that means.
Like he did the sound. I'm not making a joke. That's the only. As a not gun person,
glad to not know what any of this means.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think, and I could be wrong, but to me, he like.
Yeah, and I want to say straight up, I have absolutely no problem with responsible gun ownership whatsoever.
No,
but I'm so glad that I am not a part of gun culture.
But the key word is responsible.
Exactly,
and we'll get into that, and so will our collective girlfriend Karen.
Oh
but
my
we'll
God.
get to her in a minute.
Oh my God, I cannot wait. So he comes out of the bathroom.
And immediately to his left is a victim. And he shoots her, and then her boyfriend was there. He put his hand up and shot him. He then quickly turned his gun to a group of 4 girls that were just standing there. He shot Hannah St. Julian, and she immediately fell to the ground.
He quickly turns on a group of 4 girls, shoots into that group. I mean, it's just incredibly violent, very, very fast. But yeah, the police did respond very, very quickly.
They were there, quote, within 5 minutes. The shooter handed them the gun and he is in custody.
Yeah.
So here we are. So now everyone shut up. You better shut up. I don't know if we've ever met someone who doesn't have time for your shit more than Karen McDonald, the prosecutor here.
Yeah, she's pretty incredible.
She's amazing. So she's doing a press conference about this, and this is where she names the victims.
Yes.
So we learn about Hannah, not Hannah.
Yeah, it's Hannah.
St. Juliana. She is 14 years old. She was a volleyball player. She was a basketball player. And in this press conference, Karen, the prosecutor, says, her father wanted me to tell you that she was a happy and joyful kid.
Like, that was the first time I burst into tears.
It's hard.
I cannot imagine having to say that. I just can't imagine
because then I just immediately picture like what the conversation was when Hannah's father said that to Karen.
Yep.
Like that was a conversation that was had, and then Karen.
Like, you learn that your child was the victim of a school shooter. They're dead. They're never coming home. And all of a sudden, you're having to describe the kind of kid that your 14-year-old was.
Right. To like humanize it to the press.
Yeah. Yeah.
Humanize the situation. I didn't mean it. Like, I just meant like humanize the situation.
So then we learn Madison Baldwin was age 17. She was a talented artist and a big sister. Justin Schilling was co-captain of the Oxford bowling team and a golfer. Tate Meyer was a junior football player and an honor student. Karen says,
Mr. Meyer asked me when I spoke to him if I had children, and I said that I did, and that I would treat this case like these are my own children.
She would treat this case like these were her own kids. Right. And then I'm sobbing again.
Yeah. So Tuesday is the shooting.
Yeah.
And everyone starts working on the case immediately. And this is where we start to learn about the shooter because the shooter had a journal and wrote very openly and clearly and not subtly at all about wanting a gun, about wanting to shoot up the school, about trying to convince his parents to get him a gun.
But also about like desperately needing help.
Like his
wanting
hallucinations
help. Yes.
and what he's feeling and what he's seeing and his despair.
Yeah.
That is very palpable through his writing and through his journal. And Karen, the prosecutor, says everything we learned just made it worse. Everything we learned, whether it was reading a page of his journal or the response of the parents or what was done or what wasn't done, every fact of this case leading up to the shooting was worse than the one before it.
And I just want to say again, this kid is a monster. I'm not trying to soften that in any way, but you can see in his journal, he's trying to talk himself out of doing the shooting. He desperately wants to do the shooting.
It's the only outlet he has because just like spoiler, his parents aren't giving him any treatment or he's not in therapy. There's no one he can talk to.
Or even attention. Like the parents pay absolutely no attention to this kid.
So the only place he can get it out and say things very clearly are on these pages.
And like we will eventually see him in court. He is a he's so small and he's so young. You cannot believe that a person that age would know anywhere in their brain to do something like this.
To feel that level of
depravity, to feel that level of desperation, and then to be able to like concoct a plan to do what he did. It's mind-blowing to me.
Well, here's something that we learned that helped the shooter. November 26th, 2021, 4 days before the shooting.
They walked up to the counter and the dad said, "That's the gun I'm going to buy." And he paid in cash. They bought it. They waited for the background check to clear. Eventually did, and they walked out.
His post, and I think it was to Instagram, and it says, "Got my new beauty today."
James Crumbly buys his son a gun.
The dad, like this is for his son, for the shooter. The shooter wanted a gun, and the dad, like obviously he's not old enough to buy it. The dad buys it for him.
Right, like puts his name on the paperwork. Does all knows that it's, and we'll get into the details of what happened later, but he knows my son wants this gun. He can't do it. I'm going to do it for him and give it to him.
To be clear, this is not the dad saying, my son is interested in learning how to shoot a gun.
No.
I'm going to buy a gun that is going to be mine, that I will teach my son how to shoot.
Responsibly, and it'll be locked up.
Gun ownership.
And we'll do that. And
He says, I'm going to buy this gun for my son. Let him post pictures of it on Instagram.
Yeah.
The son's going to call it his new beauty, posting pictures of his gun on Instagram.
Yeah, he says, just got my new beauty today with the heart eye emoji.
Yeah.
Ask any questions, I will answer. And is talking about that.
I mean, once again, and
he's holding the gun. The gun isn't in a case. He is you see his hand. He's holding the weapon.
And he's referring to it as his gun.
His beauty.
So the day after the gun is bought, it's 3 days before the shooting. The family takes a family trip to the shooting range, and he is showing his mother how to shoot the gun.
Yeah, we have footage from the gun range, which is absolutely chilling.
It's so ghoulish and spooky. It is we're going to learn later, Karen, the DA, who we're obsessed with, is going to say this is the only activity the family ever does together. The only time the parents spend time with their kid is at the shooting range.
Yeah, it was and the thing is, I know that there are families or parents or people who grew up in houses who will say, because Karen, the prosecutor, says the same thing.
Yes.
My dad had guns. I grew up around guns. That's not my issue.
Right.
My issue is it was not taken seriously. There was no common sense here.
No.
There was no education with their son about how to be a responsible gun owner. There was no safe. There was no lock on the gun. It's not about having a gun in the house. That's not what it's how they specifically did it.
Because they bought a gun for their underage son. They bought a gun for their 15-year-old kid.
And they knew that because we'll get a bunch of text messages in a minute.
Yeah.
So November 29th, it's the day before the shooting. He is at school.
There was a teacher who found him researching ammunition. So then that person left a voicemail for Jennifer Crumbly.
I'm calling from Oxford High School. One of his teachers had sent an email to the office just that she was concerned. He was on his phone looking at bullets.
A teacher is concerned. She saw him looking up bullets on his phone. Jennifer Crumbly, the mother, what she does is text him and go, seriously, looking up bullets in school?
And then he responds, oh yeah, already went to the office for that. Completely harmless. Teachers just have no privacy.
Now, please pull over.
Please pull the hell over.
Her response is, LOL, I'm not mad. You have to learn how to not get caught.
But she writes, learn how to not period, to, period, get, period, caught, period. She's saying
she's drunk.
She's
also drunk.
But it's also just like, girl, you idiot. What you did, there's nothing wrong with looking up ammunition in school. That's fine. These teachers are idiots.
Just don't get caught.
Just don't get caught.
That is, I mean, I took the screenshot for my notes, but even looking at it, LOL, I'm not mad.
Right.
Like, because he's saying it's completely harmless. Teachers don't have any privacy. And she's like, girl, relax. I'm not mad. It's cool.
Right.
Like, that's how I can't understand that that's what you're talking about.
Especially knowing that your kid is struggling with the clear mental health issues that he's struggling with.
And we will eventually learn how clear he made it to his parents.
Yes. They know. They should be absolutely terrified that this kid is obsessed with guns.
And
terrified.
it gets worse.
Yeah.
So November 30th is the day of the shooting. It's the day of the shooting.
Yeah.
The shooter turns in a math assignment. And all over this worksheet, this piece of paper, it's covered in incredibly disturbing drawings, like pictures of guns and bullets that he drew. And here are the words that he wrote. The thoughts won't stop.
Yeah.
Help me. Blood everywhere. I mean, it's like out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you walk into the bathroom and that's written on the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thoughts won't stop. Help me. It's an actual cry for help. He literally wrote, help me.
It's a cry for help, but it's also like, it's a roadmap for what he's going to do.
Of course.
And so
the counselor texted the drawings to the shooter's parents.
They called the parents and said, we need you to come in. At first, Jennifer Crumbly said she can't, and she said, have you called my husband? And
the school is doing the right thing here, although nobody goes far enough. Like, this kid, in my opinion, should be immediately taken, escorted off the premises immediately. That does not happen.
So Jennifer goes, I can't make it. Can you call my husband? Let me ask you. I'm really at what is more important than this? Other than
nothing.
Like, you're performing life-saving surgery and you're in the operating room. Maybe.
Yeah.
You're giving birth. Maybe.
We are going to find out.
Wheel me with the thing half out of me. I don't care. Get me over to that school as I'm whatever I got to do. I'm giving birth. But like, I don't understand. You get that photo. Help me. The thoughts won't stop. The violent drawings. And you say, I can't be bothered. Can you call my husband? What the fuck are you doing?
You know what she's doing? She's having secret sex with her boyfriend in a Target parking lot.
In a Costco parking lot.
In a Costco, so forgive me, Target. In a Costco parking lot. Lord knows I love a Costco.
Yeah.
She literally is having sex with her secret boyfriend, and that's why she can't come in.
She can't.
And so she says to call the dad. Meanwhile, we now know that she was texting the dad saying...
But doesn't this scare you?
Oh,
there's no urgency. But doesn't it he's writing help me. Don't you want to help him?
Yeah.
At its core, at its most basic thing, he's begging for help.
Yeah.
You get that image. How do you not feel like something you've never felt in your body? How do you not just go into like autopilot and be like, I need to help my kid. I need to help my kid.
But see, my thing is it's not even just about helping your own kid. And this is what eventually the case is going to be about, is that the parents had a responsibility because they should have been able to tell that he was a danger to the other kids at the school. You know what I mean?
100%.
And truly, that's where my mind would go. Of course, I want to take care of my own kid.
Yeah.
But like knowing what they knew about his mental health struggles and his, all of that, plus this now literal roadmap for what he wants to do to his classmates. Like, I don't know everybody from the school to the parents to the police don't have this kid in custody immediately. I mean, because it's not like this is Columbine. It's not like this is the first time. Like, school shootings are happening all the time.
Every day.
And it's always the same story.
Yeah.
They always find stuff like this.
Yeah.
This is always the kids saying exactly what they're going to do. Nobody is safe.
Nobody's safe. They eventually come to school and the counselor's like, you need to help this kid, obviously. Yeah. And the parents say no.
What makes me so crazy about this, and I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to come for the counselor here because I think people are trying to do the right thing. This kid needs to be escorted off the property.
He can't be at school anymore.
He cannot be there. And this counselor will eventually take the stand. We'll see him towards the end of the documentary because I thought the counselor had said to the parents, you need to take him home. And the parents said, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And he says on the stand, I did not tell them that they needed to take him off the property. He's saying you need to get him mental health services, to which the parents respond to the counselor, we can't do that. Now, we know that money is a major issue in the house.
I don't care.
No, of course not, because I mean, I come from... Like,
have a conversation with your kid. I'm not saying that solves everything, but maybe see him and hear him for 5 minutes and go from there.
And I'm sorry, but there are resources. You go to whoever you need to go to and say, my kid is having suicidal ideation, which is what this is. He's threatening to shoot up the school. People will come out of the woodwork to help you.
But the reason the counselor is saying some of the things they are, and I agree with you, but also what can you do?
Kid out of the school.
But the parents are not telling anyone that they bought him a gun 4 days ago.
Exactly.
They're being told by a school counselor, he's saying, this is suicidal ideation. And they do nothing. They do less than nothing. They don't look for the gun.
They don't go home and immediately make sure where the gun is. They're just like casually walking out of school by themselves without their kid, without telling the counselor that they actually are concerned. They're saving that for their secret texts. They're not saying, we actually did just buy him a gun. What the fuck? Yeah. Like, that's why he's looking up bullets. They're not saying any of that either.
We're going to learn later that there is no evidence that the parents read the journals, which, whatever. But they do know that he's had suicidal ideation. They do know that he's been depressed, and they are not telling the school that now.
Yeah. And we'll get into more, they brush it off a lot. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the day of the shooting, remember?
Yeah.
He hands in that assignment with all of these horrible things written and drawn on it. The parents get called in, they decide to do nothing, and they leave.
Yeah.
90 minutes later, the mom texts the shooter and says, you okay? And he goes, yeah, I just got back from lunch. And she goes, you can talk to us and we won't judge you. And he says, I know, thank you. I'm sorry for that. I love you. This is what you say when you think your 14-year-old has a crush on somebody.
Yes.
You can talk to us. We won't judge. Or if you think, I don't know, but this is not what you say.
No.
When you see, we won't judge you. No.
And when we find out why they're so hands-off, it's because they are so completely preoccupied with the shit that's going on. They don't want to deal with their kid.
They don't want to deal.
They just don't want to deal with it.
So they're acting like it's not a big deal so that he sort of mirrors that energy.
Yes.
Like, you can talk to us and we won't judge you. What the fuck? That doesn't match up with what is happening. Where is the heaviness and the weight of the situation?
Well, especially because the shooting started 9 minutes later. He says, I'm so sorry for that. I love you. 9 minutes later, the shooting starts. As he's texting his mother, he's like trying to figure out where he's going to...
I'm totally fine.
Yeah. Like, he's like, where do I start shooting? Like, that's what's going through his brain.
Also, 90 minutes after she left.
Yeah.
Check in. You okay?
Yeah, I know.
90 minutes later.
If this exact same thing were the situation and it were Daisy, like, we would have her probably out of that school forever. Like, we would immediately be dealing with mental health specialists trying to figure out what,
and
you know
also,
what I mean?
like, where is the gun?
Right.
Like, as the parent who bought, I'm just saying, like, if this is the situation we're living in, if you're the parent who bought the gun 4 days ago, this is what you're seeing on paper, literally?
Yeah.
Where's the fucking gun?
Where's the fucking gun?
That's what Karen, the prosecutor, wants to know.
Well, right, because it's nowhere on the parents' radar. They're not even thinking about that.
Because she is thinking, because she's here with us now, and she's like, where's the gun?
Yes.
And now she's thinking back in the text, the LOL, just don't get caught.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? So,
and the way that they were called to the school and completely didn't care, literally said to the counselor, we are not going to get in mental health services because, quote, we can't. Karen is very much like...
The facts of this case are so egregious. The notion that a parent could read those words and also know that their son had access to a deadly weapon that they gave him is unconscionable, and I think it's criminal.
The parents are culpable.
She's charging the parents. She makes that decision almost instantly.
I mean, like, she literally, I wrote, and she files fucking charges. I said, she is reclaiming the name, baby. Karen, all day, every day. All day, every day.
Be this kind of Karen.
This is Hero Bell for Karen.
Maybe I should have Googled her more before we start making sweeping statements.
You know what? Good call, but at least in the context of this, you know.
But she charges them with involuntary manslaughter.
Yes.
And they fucking run. We see footage of Anderson Cooper. He's like, do we have eyes on the parents?
This is the most insane thing I've ever seen
They
in
were
my
supposed
life.
to surrender.
Yes.
And they bail.
There's a manhunt for them.
The U.S. Marshals are involved.
Lady Anderson Cooper herself is wondering where they are.
Do you have eyes on the parents? Like, what's going on?
You know what they do? This blows my mind.
They are fugitives right now.
Fugitives. They drive 40 miles to Detroit where they're hiding out in some friend's artist loft, to which I said, what artist is hiding these fucking garbage people?
Nobody, because the friend calls and immediately rats them out.
Yeah.
The 911 call is like, the parents?
They're here.
Like,
oh my God. They're here.
The parents?
Yeah.
They're here.
They're here.
They're like, oh, it's their car. Like, the mom's here. Like, the whole nine. Like, the parents you're all looking for, they're in my fucking parking lot.
They're fucking here.
So they were probably like, hi, come on in. Nothing weird about this at all. And
do you like my painting?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Why don't you look at it for a minute? You really need to look at it for about 10 minutes.
I'm in my blue period.
Without looking away.
Yeah.
And cover your ears, and I'm going to go in my bathroom and whisper, but it's totally part of the art. It's how I express myself.
It's
as they're screaming. And I can't control the volume of my voice,
No.
but I will for a minute while I make this phone call that has nothing to do with you at all. Just look at this lovely thing that I created.
Yeah.
That's
it's gorgeous.
what happened.
It's cubist.
No one is harboring any of these fucking fugitives.
No, because also we then see the U.S. Marshals like kicking open the door with their machine guns.
Flat.
They're
like,
asleep on mattresses.
Who is going to protect protect these assholes.
Thank God.
So they're caught and arrested.
I was also just like, what is the fucking plan, you idiots?
There is no plan.
You're going to be on the run for the rest of your lives, taking no accountability for buying your kid the gun that he then killed four of his classmates
They were not
with.
thinking.
Like, oh my God.
So we get this on-screen text that says, our cameras were granted exclusive access inside the prosecutor's office over the course of 2 years as they prepared their case against the Crumblys. When I say we have a front row seat behind the curtain to see how this case comes together, we do.
But, we also learn a little bit more about prosecutor Karen here, because she's saying that, like, people watch the TV shows and they think that being a prosecutor is fun. And she's like, what drew her to it was advocating for people.
What TV shows are showing prosecutors as the life of the party?
Well, I think it's more like, hey, Stacey Keenan, I think it's more like they're like the badasses. They're the ones that, like, they're going to get the guy or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're Alex Cabot. You're Casey
They make
Novak.
the great opening and closing arguments.
Right.
Well, Karen was a teacher at the public schools for 3 years before she decided to pursue a law degree.
I was an assistant prosecutor in this very building, and I would walk in here every day about 25 years ago, never imagining someday I'd be walking in with my name on the door.
She's like, I never thought I'd come here and see my name on the door, but here we are.
And talking about seeing behind the scenes, she walks in and she goes, what is this? Are these like stress balls? Like, she goes, what's the message here?
I know.
Who put these here?
I know.
What is this?
So we also meet Mark and David. They're the assistant DAs. They're awesome. They are like the men who work for the powerful woman, and they defer to her, and they know that she's the powerful woman. But she loves them. Mark especially. He is really well, they're both really passionate about this case.
Yeah.
But Mark says, like, as she was like making her decision as to how to proceed, she walked into the room and she's like, I want to go around and I want to hear everyone's opinion, but I'm telling you right now, I am charging the parents, and that is final.
So that's kind of it. Like, I'll hear you out for 2 seconds. But she also didn't really give a shit that this was unprecedented.
No.
Because they're the first parents, again, in American history, and I can't even tell you how many school shootings we've had to be prosecuted. And she's like, weird. Yeah, I'm not like here to make a statement. Like, she's like, I based on the facts of the case, it feels insane to not prosecute them. So like, that was just what she was going to do.
It didn't occur to her to even wonder if it had ever happened before, because truly the parents set up their son to kill these 4 kids and injure the other 7.
She's like, they had a responsibility, they failed, and people were murdered. End of story. I'm charging them. Any fucking questions?
No.
If you have a question, I don't give a shit.
Right.
That's Karen.
Right. And speaking of which, now we're at home with Karen and her husband and their dog Josie.
Okay, so her husband, Jerry. Hi, Jerry.
Yeah,
he
hi,
never
Jerry.
takes the salads that Karen makes for him.
This is your lunch. Great. Do you need it? Yeah. We eat it? Okay. I actually do make him a salad, and about 50% of the time, he leaves it at home. So that's
At least 50%.
It's highly frustrating to me.
Steve and I have had this conversation 700 times.
Okay.
He'll like pull out the leftovers from the night before and be like, this is your lunch today. You're going to take it. And I'm always like, yep, knowing that I'm ordering sushi.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm either not going to take it or I'm going to take it and not eat it.
And so why are you lying?
Because it's easier.
Okay.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? Yeah.
That was really fast, that answer. Okay.
Because sometimes it's just like, yep, I'm totally going to take this today. I'm definitely eating this.
And if you said, no thanks, I'll have it later, or no thank you, I'm not interested in that anymore.
Usually what happens is, in order to get the takeout the night before, I have to agree to having the leftovers for lunch.
Okay.
But
So neither of you are learning, is what I'm hearing.
No. And I'll agree to the leftovers
We're just
knowing
gonna
that I'm
stick with
having
these
sushi.
patterns.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Totally.
So we don't get
17 years and counting.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of your like secret love language. I get it.
Yeah.
So we don't get a lower third about Josie,
Right.
but they say her name, which is close enough for me. Josie is very excited about all the cameras and
Of
fanfare.
course.
They're getting her to sit, and at one point, Karen's like, Josie, chill.
Just be cool,
And I'm like,
Josie.
that would be Fiona. Like, with all the cameras and lights, like, she would have a very hard... And then when we all sit down, she'll be like, finally.
Yeah.
And then she'll curl up. But if we're all standing, she's like, I don't understand. She'll want to hurt us.
Oh my
she'll
God.
want to, like, get us in the same space.
H-E-A-R-D. H-E-R-D.
H-E-R-D. Like, she'd want us to all be
not
like...
her to us.
No.
Right.
She heard.
Yeah, heard.
Yeah, she'd want us all like, what's going on?
Have you
Why are
like
we
ever
not
been
all-
like walking around the apartment, like having a conversation, realizing like 2 minutes in that you're being herded by your dog?
Yes.
That is so funny.
Yeah, she will literally. I'm in the office. She loves being in my office, which like makes my heart swell. Oh my God, it's so amazing. But I just hear Mike saying like, "Where are you taking me?" And she'll go in the room, like look at you, and then you'll get up and she'll walk with her head back, like you're coming, right? And then Mike's like, "So now I'm in the office now," and she's like, "Perfect." And then she like settles and she does her little like moo cow sound. She also does squeak yawns, which is like the cutest thing in the world.
I just had this image of you and Mike like having a conversation in the living room, and then like looking around, like snapping out of it, be like, "How did we get to the guest bathroom?
Yeah, where are we?
How did we get here?"
I'm in your
And then you look at
office now.
Fiona.
Yeah, it's usually when we're apart. If we're together, great. But she will lead one of us
To the other.
so that we're all together.
That's so cute.
She's a sweetheart. But I'd be like, Fiona, chill.
Yeah.
Like, play a cool girl.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we are watching everyone put this case together, and it's fucking fascinating. So the major point that they want to make is that the shooter doesn't look like some inexperienced kid with a gun.
Because once again, when we see him, it's a shock. He is such a tiny, small, young person.
Yeah.
You know?
But he knew what he was doing because of his parents. And at one point, Karen's like, he was doing what he was taught. Because like you said earlier, the only like family thing they did was go to the gun range.
And they have all the surveillance footage. And they're talking about like, there's a photo of him like in a shooting stance in the hallway. And they want to use it to show that this kid knew exactly what he was doing.
Right.
He's like a marksman, essentially.
But the parents did a lot of lying, or at the very least, omitting of information.
Yes.
So their defense is saying that the gun was, quote, locked, as in locked in a safe place somewhere out of reach.
As in, like, they did the responsible thing and they're not responsible for the shooting because it was locked. But Karen says, like, we see their police interrogation and they never say the gun was locked up. They say in their interrogation, and we see it, the gun was hidden in an armoire under some clothing.
Which is not responsible gun ownership. It's just not responsible.
The least responsible gun ownership.
And that is a very big distinction. Hidden under some clothes and locked are not the same thing.
Especially when you like in conjunction with the fact that the dad bought it literally for his 15-year-old kid
4 days ago.
This is his son's gun, essentially.
And Jennifer also lies. We see her saying
he's never been in trouble. He's never done anything. Like he's never done anything wrong. He's a good kid. Right.
Why are you lying about that? Why are you trying to cover it up? And the reason you're trying to cover it up is because you did know, you did have signs, and you took him to the gun range.
He was a perfect kid, no signs at all.
Yeah.
We see and hear her say it 90 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
She was too busy to give a shit about all of the drawings and the writings we saw on his math assignment.
Right. And like she's lying because she knows that she's going to be confronted with the fact that she saw the signs. She knew that her kid was in danger.
And 2 days earlier, she was saying, LOL, just don't get caught searching for bullets.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
she's full of shit. And to be clear, another distinction is this isn't her saying, I'm gonna do anything to save my kid. I'm gonna lie. I'm gonna throw myself under the bus.
She's trying to save herself.
She's saving herself.
Yeah.
And because we see this sometimes where the parents are like trying to lie to save. No. Because we will eventually learn that they throw him under the bus later.
Yeah.
So she is covering her own ass.
Now, Karen now says to us, she once spent almost a whole weekend reviewing the Facebook messages between James and Jennifer for the last 2 years. And she goes, and let me tell you, that wasn't easy because these people are, you say it,
yikes.
That is, we need yikes merch because it's my favorite word that you say.
It is so yikes. But like the people are yikes. Everything about it is yikes.
Everything is yikesy.
So also, I always think it's kind of interesting to hear about people's preferred method of communication. Like your Facebook messaging your husband.
I know.
If Mike Facebooked me, I'd be like, what? Like my friend Eric sent me a video on Instagram, shared something, and then he starts to have a conversation with me in the Instagram DM. I was like, what is wrong with you? Just text me.
I have one friend whose preferred method, she like is obsessed with Facebook Messenger to this day. Like sometimes I won't check my messenger for weeks and I'm like, oh my God, I've got 10 messages from her.
Okay.
Yeah.
That to me is different than like your spouse.
If Mike and
I were Facebook messaging all day,
the Natalia Grace of it all. That's how Michael and Christine communicated.
If that's your thing, I'm just sort of curious why.
That's another one on the page, fam. The Curious Case of
Natalia Grace. But it's just weird. If Mike Facebooked me, first of all, I'd never see it.
Never see it.
But to me, that feels so like, I don't know. It just struck me as like, wow, their Facebook history.
That's interesting. Like, I wonder why, like, they're not just texting each other.
Because they do text.
Right.
But they also say a lot of insane things over Facebook Messenger.
So, like, you know, Karen, the DA is just saying.
The life they lived was just crazy. Like, just completely consumed with the highs and lows of the relationship and then, like, the sexting and the really terrible things they'd like video of their sexual acts.
The really terrible things they would video of their sexual acts.
And then send it to each other.
On Facebook Messenger.
And I guess like that part, I'm like less offended by that part of it. I think Facebook Messenger, like it doesn't feel like the safest place. Your Facebook gets hacked and then that video's everywhere.
I know.
I don't give a shit if you're filming things and then like looking back on it if that's hot or whatever.
Sure.
Like cool, like awesome.
Yeah.
Great form. You both look super hot. Or
not
all
them.
of you. No, whatever.
Yeah.
Like dear listener, like if that's your thing, fucking awesome. Super
100%.
hot. But I don't understand
But like live your life as though a DA is eventually going to be going through your shit. You know what I mean?
Like, I don't know why you're not texting it. It's just very strange.
Yeah.
But on top of it, Jennifer was having an affair.
Yes.
The mother was having an affair and spending a ton of money on shit that was unnecessary, like the time she bought a $5,000 horse while she was hammered.
Because they're talking about
that is a true story.
Yes, like the drinking was out of control, says Karen. They were all absolute alcoholics.
Horseback riding is a very expensive hobby. There's a lot of accoutrement
this was
that
their
come with it.
second horse. So
they
she
have
gets
two horses.
Wasted, buys a $5,000 horse as a second horse.
Priorities.
We felt it was potentially relevant because it showed how she was spending her time instead of taking care of her son. When you see what her priorities were, how much money they spent on their horses, and these are people who, like, money was tight.
So instead of taking care of their kid,
Yes.
she's with her boyfriend and spending thousands of dollars on non-essentials and drinking a lot.
Also, don't tell me that you can't afford mental health care for your kid that's about to shoot up a fucking school when you're spending $5,000 drunkenly on a horse.
On a horse. You have 2 horses. And again, it's a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
why, like, super rich people do it. It's like a very out-of-touch, expensive. There's like a lot that goes into it. You need a lot of care, a lot of upkeep, a lot of whatever.
It's a living creature.
And it's a living creature, and it's enormous.
Yeah, yes, it's
very
huge.
cool.
Have you seen the lady on TikTok who has cows? Like, she has cows as pets.
I'm on a lot of animal talk. Sometimes I get confused. Does she have brown hair?
Yes, and
Okay.
sometimes she'll like lie on top of the cow just to show you that you can hug this cow as big as you want and it loves it. I know. That it's the kind of animal, because you know how you want to like hug bears or you want to overhug your dogs that are too small? She's like, cows are perfect.
It's called cute aggression. It's a real thing.
Yes, she's like, you can literally lie in the cow. You can't even put your arms all the way around it.
Cute.
Yeah, it's great. The cow is adorable.
They like music.
They do?
Yeah, they like classical music.
They like classical music, you
Yeah.
say?
They're like what? Like
Okay.
there are videos of someone like playing music or jazz or some like kind of like any kind of music, I guess, and the cows will just like sort of slowly
way.
come to the end of the pasture.
I learn something new from you every day.
Mostly about animals.
Mostly about animals, that's true.
So Karen, the prosecutor, says they had this toxic, turbulent relationship, but the thing, and it was thousands of Facebook messages or whatever. But she's like, the thing was, none of it was about their son. She goes, none of it.
None of it.
So the shooter was writing so much of what he was thinking and feeling down.
Yes.
And so we have all of it. Like
It
Karen
was
can
all
also
in his backpack.
Right. So like Karen can go through that too.
Yes.
And he says, I have zero help for my mental problems and it's causing me to shoot up the fucking school. And I want to say, the word help is enormous. Like in this sentence, I have zero help for my mental problems. Help is big and bold and underlined. Like that word that he was screaming in every way he could was completely ignored.
And it's like, you know, again, Karen's gonna, so like we get this whole moment and we're jumping ahead a little bit. We'll come back to the rest of this. But like, you know, Mark, the DA, is saying like, if we can prove that all those writings were in his backpack for weeks, it's more of an indication that the parents were neglecting him. And Karen like stops him in his tracks.
Okay, I just pushing back on that and being the only one of us here that has parented teenagers.
I know you're not looking through a backpack.
You're never looking through a backpack.
I know that.
No parent is going through their teenager's backpack.
Right.
I do not agree with
You
that.
don't agree.
I'm sorry, Karen, but you can't tell me that these parents are negligent for not like reading his journals and looking at his text messages, but then give them a pass for not going through the backpack because you don't go through your kid's backpack.
Well,
number 2, I go through my kid's backpack every day.
Right. But she's 10.
Yeah, she's 10, but like, I want to know what's going on in her life. I mean, I'm not giving Karen a pass on this. I think especially like go through your kid's shit. You got to go through your kid's shit.
Yeah.
You have to.
I'm not going to weigh in here on this.
Yeah.
But I will say that he was also texting his parents about his hallucinations and seeing demons in the house.
Yes.
And no one did anything. So you hear about the demons.
Yep.
You're not looking at the journals, let's just say. You get the phone call from the school about the bullets. You get the phone call from the school about the math assignment. It's
and
like,
then you go out and buy your kid a gun.
And you bought him a gun. Or you bought him a gun, then you get the phone call about the math assignment and you still don't do anything?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
fucking charge these
You
people.
have to. Like,
He was suffering. He was talking to his friends about shooting up the school. Like, this kid was suffering.
I mean, he texted one of his friends, and I quote, "Now it's time to shoot up the school, JK, JK, JK." My question is, where's that kid?
I don't know what's
I'm not
going
saying
on
throw
there.
that kid in jail, but like that, like if some parents, you need to teach your children. If a kid makes a joke like that, it is not a joke.
Yeah.
I don't care if
No, it's not- that's not a
it
joke.
would never happen. If a kid makes a threatening joke about shooting up a school, it is our responsibility. I worry about my kid going to school every day,
Of
and
course.
I will until the day she's out of school.
Of course.
It is our responsibility to keep our kids safe. We have to take everything seriously. Karen, you got to go through the backpack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sorry. You got to go
guess.
through the backpack.
Yeah. So Marielle Lehman, boo, is the father's defense attorney.
Garbage bell.
And she is here. So
Yeah, and she's here.
And she's here. And we get on-screen text. By the summer of 2022, the parents and the shooter have been in custody for 6 months, and they're not allowed any contact with each other.
Yeah.
And this is great, this footage.
Yeah.
So it's June 2022. We're at the pretrial hearing. And the defense says,
Your Honor, if I may, the concern we have is we just found out, 2 or 3 days ago that Ethan Crumbly's trial was moved to January. And
Yes. Why do I care?
This judge is absolutely not fucking here for your
Why
shit.
do I give a shit? What does that matter? We're at a pretrial hearing. I don't. So
and what the defense attorney is saying is that we need him to be. He's going to be a witness in this trial.
Well, let's slow down on this because the defense wants the shooter as a witness in the trial against his parents, which means that they want to put their own son on the stand in their defense and throw him under the bus and absolve themselves of any liability.
Which to me is so insane because it's like you're all under the bus. You all should be under the bus. You're all gonna be under
right.
And it's funny.
Or at least get a lesser sentence, or they're doing this to help themselves out in some way, which is fucking disgusting.
What I will say though is that we immediately cut to a meeting with Karen and her team, and they're all kind of like, I don't understand. Like, what could he possibly say? We know that they didn't lock up the gun. We know that they knew about his mental health struggles. We know that he was crying out for help. What could he possibly say that would in any way lessen their culpability unless it's working out in his favor and he's going to get some kind of deal for testifying against the parents?
And then they start thinking about the parents of the victims and survivors. They're like, well, how are they going to feel about this? Like, there's no way to know. Do they want to hear from him?
Right.
Do they never want to hear from him? Like, what? They're just trying to look at this from all
Because
angles.
it's confusing. Unless the kid is going to get up there, maybe Karen and her team are thinking he knows he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, so he's going to cover for his parents and say, no, the gun was locked up because only he would know.
Oh, I think they would totally make him out to be fucking crazy. And I think they would use him for their own benefit.
To me, they're completely independent. And, he is crazy. But we know you didn't lock up the gun. We know that you knew about the struggles. We know that you saw this coming. We know that you said to the school counselor on the day that he did the math assignment, I'm not going to get help for my kid.
I don't have time.
Because I've got horses to buy and men
boyfriends to fucking Costco.
In the Costco parking lot.
I mean,
I know.
And booze to drink and whatever. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
So David, one of the prosecutors we love, says something that's like, oh, this is it. This is a lot of what this case is about.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
He says the opposite of love isn't hate. It's just being ignored.
Because David's point, I actually love this moment. We go home with David and we see him and his son. His son's probably in high school. And David is saying, look, anyone who has raised children thinks that they are less than a perfect parent. He says,
they think, on my worst day, if someone would captured me, I might not look that great either. Am I going to wind up on trial? And what's different about this is the decisions they made, both about what not to do, but what they affirmatively did.
Does that mean I could wind up on trial? Because what they're trying to say is wait a second, is any parent of any school shooter now culpable? Maybe if the parents didn't see the signs, the parents did. And everyone's here to say, no.
No.
It is so blatant what these parents knew and decided not to act on. And I did not say...
They bought him the gun.
And they bought him the gun. I did not say ignore. They did not ignore things. They knew about things and decided not to act on it. They knew about very serious things. They knew that their son was a threat to the other kids at the school. And I'm sorry, if that's the same situation in your house, then yes, you're going to be held liable too. But I would imagine that that's usually not the case.
Right.
Right.
We meet Steve St. Juliana, who is Hannah's father.
Yeah.
We're with Hannah's family, and he just says, I'm a fraction of who I used to be. And we meet her amazing sister, Raina.
Yeah.
And Raina shows us that the Christmas tree is still up in their house.
This will eternally be up because Hannah loved Christmas, and this is a tree that we decorated now last year. Right after Thanksgiving, we put it up. Yeah.
Before the shooting.
I don't want to decorate a tree without her, so I like it just the way it is.
Because I don't ever want to decorate a tree without my sister ever again. And that tree's been up for years and it will always be
It'll
there.
always be up forever.
Yeah.
And so then we meet Ven Johnson, and he's a lawyer who's representing some of the families.
Yeah.
And he says what's missing in this case is any focus on the school and their responsibility here. And we meet two parents, Megan Gregory, who is Keegan's mom. Keegan was in school that day and he survived.
Yeah.
And Keith Schilling is Justin's father, and Justin died, but Keegan and Justin were together.
Well, what happened was they were in the bathroom and Keegan was in a stall and heard the shooter come in and stood on the toilet so the shooter wouldn't see his feet. And Justin was out of the stall and the shooter killed him.
Right.
And didn't know that Keegan was in there. And so Keegan's mom says that the reason that she reached out to Justin's dad to say, I just wanted you to know that Justin wasn't alone in the bathroom that day and you might have some questions that probably my son is the only person in the world that could answer.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, reach out and you will get all your questions answered.
Yeah, which is such a beautiful yet heartbreaking thing.
It's weird to see these two parents sitting next to each other because their life experiences are so different, because his son was murdered and her son son lived.
And they're two different kinds of trauma.
Yeah, and their energies are very different. You know what I mean? Like, Justin's dad is just trying to get through the day, you can tell.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like Keegan's mom, and you know, Keegan is still a survivor and he's been through trauma, but it's just different. Like her son came home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like, Keegan's mom is like, the shooter was definitely neglected, because this is when the lawyer for the family says, I don't feel sorry for the shooter, but it was a shit environment,
Yes.
clearly. And we'll get into the state of the house in a minute.
I mean...
But Keegan's mom says, like, I would have acted on this immediately. Like,
Yeah.
she's sitting here as a mom saying, like, how could you let this happen?
Because
as a parent, she's saying this.
Any parent would have. She's saying...
If my child was saying he was seeing things or hearing voices, I would immediately be at the hospital with my child. And I think there's a difference of bad parenting and gross negligence, right? I mean, that was neglect on that child.
She just can't believe
She
it.
calls it gross negligence. Like that. Like that's just what it is. Like, how do you leave your kid in school? How do you leave your kid in the school?
How do you get a picture of that and say, I can't make it? Can you call my husband?
I mean, like
in that tone, like
Yeah.
I can't. Not, oh my God, is he okay? Is everyone safe? What's going on? Like, not just like, I can't do it.
Because she's literally having sex with her boyfriend in the Costco parking lot. That is not. I'm not making that up. That's what she was doing.
So it's October 2022, and we're at the shooter's plea hearing. We have an actual front row seat to this. Like, I can't believe what we're seeing.
Right here, I have like a fucking jump scare. The shooter walks in.
I know.
We haven't seen any images of him up to this point. All of a sudden, he's there, and I screamed.
Yeah. So the shooter was first pleading insanity, and now they're changing that to a guilty plea.
I was like, we're going to drop the insanity plea and just go for guilty. I was like, sounds like someone's making some wise choices.
Yeah. I mean, so the shooter just like admits to all of it, says, yep, I wanted the gun. I had it all picked out. My dad bought me the gun. I actually gave him the money for it.
Because what he's doing, it sounds to me like some kind of deal was struck here, because it's the prosecution questioning him, but not on the stand. He's standing at the table next to the prosecutor. It's a hearing. He's giving the prosecution everything that they need. They established that on the day of the shooting, the gun was not locked up in any way.
Right.
So like that was part of whatever the deal that was made here.
Yeah. And also like the fact that the father took money from his son.
Yeah.
The prosecution is saying like that means that the father of course knew that age was an issue.
Of
and
course.
it adds to the sneakiness
Right.
of like kind of like slyly buying my son this gun. That it wasn't on the up and up.
15-year-old kid with mental health problems a gun.
And it wasn't responsible. Like that's what the prosecution is really leaning into. And of course that the shooter says that the gun was not locked. And we will get proof of that in a moment.
Yeah.
So we're back with Raina, who is Hannah, one of the victims, her sister. And they're just at every memorial. They're at every march. They're at everything. And Raina, like this young woman, like is so strong and incredible. She says,
instead of speaking at her wedding, I spoke at her funeral. Instead of fishtailing her hair for a game, I curled her hair in a casket. Doesn't matter if I go to her room to steal her clothes, show her an outfit, or ask for advice. I am met with silence and darkness.
instead of speaking at my sister's wedding, I'm speaking at her funeral. And Hana is Japanese, and her name means flower.
Yeah.
And so her family is building a community memorial garden that you can donate to. I did it today. It's HANA memorialfund.com. So you can donate to that memorial garden.
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine you send your kid to school and a couple of months later you're planning the memorial garden.
Right. And Raina is speaking again, like the strength. And she ends this amazing speech by saying, protect our kids, not our guns.
You know, and this is where Karen, the prosecutor, like you were saying, like maybe we should look her up and make sure she isn't garbage. But she is saying a lot of people own guns. Because Karen is going to this March for Our Lives rally, and she makes the point on the way there to say, like, I get invited to these things a lot and I never go, but I'm going to this because this is put on by the kids. This is about the kids. I want to be there. But she's saying that, like, a lot of people own guns and people have the right to own guns. And I grew up in a house where my father had guns. But she says, but owning a gun and gifting it to a minor and leaving it in a way that is so accessible and so grossly negligent, she says to her, it is just common sense.
It's just common sense.
You know?
It's not a responsible gun ownership, by any stretch.
No.
All right, I'm going to scream a little bit.
Oh.
So just hold on.
Okay.
Because it's January 2024 and Jennifer Crumbly's trial starts.
Yes.
Her defense lawyer gets up there and immediately starts quoting Taylor Swift. Now let's get into it.
This is absolutely insane.
She gets up there and she goes, I was listening to Taylor Swift on the way here to warm up my voice and get all amped. And she goes,
there was a line in one of her songs that summarized what this case is about. Band-Aids don't stop bullet holes. And that's what this case is about. It's about the prosecution attempting to put a Band-Aid on problems that can't be fixed with a Band-Aid.
Girl, shut the ever-loving fuck up. First of all, it's a metaphor! It's a goddamn metaphor. Oh my God. How dare you? Also, it's Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. So you can't even fucking quote it right. And like, it is so wildly off base and inappropriate and insulting and offensive.
I mean, because to me,
it is so disgusting.
It is also so poorly executed.
Yes.
She has no confidence when she's saying it to the jury. I think in her head, I think it literally came to her in the car. In her head, it sounded so much better. She hears herself saying it. It completely falls flat. Like, it doesn't work at all.
Someone did not get a single fucking lyric on the Torture Poets department.
No.
This woman has how did she pass the bar to not understand a metaphor and to not, what is wrong with you to walk in there and say something so blatantly offensive and insulting to the families of those victims and the survivors of any violence ever? Like, how fucking dare you?
You know, and then later in the episode, we get like the Karen's team, and they're like, "Can you believe like she opened with Taylor Swift?" They cannot believe it.
They cannot believe it.
It landed with such a thud. It had absolutely no impact.
And it's like when she's saying, "That's what this case is about." What is this case about?
Right.
What's the Band-Aid here?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say
What
here?
are you talking
What the
about?
fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know.
So then we get more text messages from the shooter where because remember, this is his mother's trial.
Yes.
So text messages from the shooter to his mother. He's asking his mother to please take him to the doctor, and she laughs at him.
Yes. Yes.
So this is what we're saying, where it's months, maybe years of this kid begging to be seen and heard and begging for help, and his parents not doing it. Whether it is walking out of the school or not even wanting to go to the meeting about the math assignment.
Prioritizing Costco sex over going to take care of your child.
To hearing about hallucinating demons and seeing demons and just like, and to like, Mom, can you please like find a doctor for me? Like, I need help. And she laughs at him.
It's
and then they buy him a
unbelievable.
gun, and then it's don't get caught with the bullets. And then it's like, what the fuck are these people thinking?
I know.
So Sean Hopkins is the counselor the parents spoke to. And he's on the stand, and I'm like, finally, because I want to hear more about like the demeanor during this meeting. Like, I need.
I'm really conflicted about this guy, and I don't know. I don't want to make anything any worse, but this is where they ask him directly, did you tell the parents they needed to take the kid out of the school? And he says, no, he didn't.
But what I took away from this too, because I want to get there in a minute, because I'm like, I want to know were they nervous? Were they crying? Were they scared?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean? Like, oh, we can't take him to a doctor today. Like, I just want to hear from Sean, like, what was the back and forth? And he says on the stand that Jennifer, the mother, felt a little bit distant, and it was an inconvenience for her to be there.
Yeah.
And he also testifies.
On November the 30th, when you met with Jennifer Crumbly, did she tell you her son had texted her that he was seeing demons?
No.
That she thought Ethan was depressed?
No.
That she had never once set an appointment with any mental health professional?
No.
Did Jennifer Crumbly tell you that she and her husband gave her son a 6-hour 9mm handgun just 4 days before the shooting?
No.
Didn't say any of that, any of the history, anything about asking for help, asking to see a doctor.
I mean, didn't mention the fact that they bought him a 9mm gun that looks exactly like the gun on the math homework, which is the reason they called him down to the school in the first place.
And didn't say don't get caught about the bullets. Like, she didn't. There's a lot she didn't say here. She was very annoyed and inconvenienced to be there.
They called her in to say, look at the drawing that your kid just turned in. There is a drawing of the gun that is an exact replica of the gun that the dad bought him 4 days ago.
He wanted that gun. He had that gun picked out.
Yeah.
This was the gun he wanted.
He calls it his beauty.
So of course he can draw it by memory because he's been staring at photos of this gun that he wanted for so long.
Yeah.
So we're back with the prosecution, and tomorrow in court, they're going to present photos of the Crumbly house.
Yes.
And when I say this house, no one gave a shit about anything in that house, and it's very clear.
You just can't believe it looking at it. And the thing that just stands out to me is like, there's so much more than just this, but there are bottles of booze everywhere.
Empty bottles of booze.
Empty bottles like on every table, on every night table, next to the bed.
They're
on
not
the
even
desks.
throwing them out.
No.
They're just like,
and there's like cups
everywhere.
full of liquid. But like more than that, like it's a hoarder's house. There's trash everywhere. You can't see the floor. We learned that the killer, there's like multiple bedrooms in this house, and his bedroom got so full that he just moved into another bedroom.
And no one was like, hey, kid, clean your room.
Yeah.
Isn't that the thing that you tell 13-year-olds to do on a daily basis? Or any child, clean your room?
Yes.
Isn't that like such a trope?
Of course.
But also, there were bullets in Tupperware containers, like handfuls of bullets just loose in Tupperware.
You really, like, and especially for a kid suffering from mental health issues, the chaos of this house.
Yes.
The
You don't feel
chaos of it.
settled when you walk into a
don't feel
house like
settled.
that.
You don't feel safe. It is absolute, like, it just shows the level of complete disconnect. The parents, they don't take care of the kid. They don't take care of the house.
And the neglect of everything.
Neglect everything.
And being as a kid being like, wow, they don't care about me. They don't care about the house. They don't care about anything. Like, that will lead you down a very dark path mentally.
Yes.
And on top of that, the shooter had target paper hung up with bullet holes. So I guess he took that home from the rage. I guess that's a thing you can do.
Yeah.
But when the cops get there, this is sort of the big bombshell, for lack of a better term.
Now, is this the condition that this gun case and empty box of ammunition were found on November the 30th, 2021?
Correct.
And that's on the master bedroom?
Yes.
The empty gun case was open and sitting on the bed in the parents' bedroom.
Yeah.
Which proves it wasn't even hidden, or even if it was hidden under the clothes, like it wasn't locked away, it wasn't responsibly in a safe somewhere.
Yes.
It was just open
Or
on the bed.
Locked. Like those gun cases are supposed to be locked.
It's just wide open, empty on the bed, on top of a pile of clothes.
Exactly.
Because the place looks like a hoarder's house.
Exactly. So now we're at home with Karen, who's having a glass of wine. I wrote, thank God.
God bless her.
Thank God Karen is having a glass of wine.
But we also learn about Brian Milosh.
Right, because we're at home with Karen having a glass of wine because they're trying to decide if they're going to call Milosh to the stand. Milosh is the mom's boyfriend.
And the prosecution's like, fuck yeah, we're calling him.
The Costco sex guy.
The Costco sex guy. Now, he says the morning of the shooting, Jennifer did tell him that she was worried about her son. And according to the boyfriend on the stand, I don't know if this is perjury or what, but according to the boyfriend on the stand, the mother says he might hurt himself and I don't want him to do anything stupid.
Now, but the thing about that is that's the morning of the shooting, right?
So she knew about the bullets.
So, but what I'm saying is, so then her suspicions should have been confirmed
when she got
later that morning when the school calls her and says, your kid is drawing guns and blood and dead kids everywhere. You need to get down here.
And you hold that piece of paper in your hand that's saying the thoughts won't stop. Help me, help me.
So then you're called down to the school. You see your son who just this morning you're telling your boyfriend you're worried about is going to do something stupid and you don't offer him help in any way.
Yeah.
You just leave him there?
You just leave him there. Because she, I don't even know if she was having sex with this Costco boyfriend. She had many boyfriends.
Yeah.
She had other boyfriends. So she was never at home. She was focused on one of her many boyfriends, or she was with the horses or other frivolous shit. She didn't give a shit about her kid.
No.
Her kid has a gun. He's depressed. The school calls. And I see you on camera walking out without him.
Leaving your kid at the school.
To go hang out with a horse or one of your many boyfriends or whatever. Like, and we get to this later too, but it's like worth saying now. She was doing anything but staying at home with her kid.
Yes.
Any excuse to leave town or be with whoever or do whatever.
And when she was at home, she was drinking. And I understand that alcoholism is a serious disease. I'm not making fun of her. But when she was home, she was drinking and was not present for her kid.
Right. It was neglect all across the board.
Yeah.
So now Jennifer takes the stand and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm at a loss, girl. Give me some answers. Fucking speak for yourself.
Yeah.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah.
And she says,
he asked me if I wanted to go to the shooting range with him, and he's never asked me, just me, to go before. I shot it a couple of times and he did the rest. It was a fun day. I felt good about it.
I felt really good about it, you guys.
I mean, it's once again the only time they ever spend any family time together. You know what I mean?
Right. And what's interesting, though, is that I'm not hearing, if that's all they did together, I'm also not hearing about any other guns in the house.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because we do hear it a lot. The gun range was the only time they were together as a family. And yes, he knew how to hold guns, but he didn't take another gun that his dad had or his mom had. I'm not hearing about any other weapons in the house.
Right.
Except for these loose bullets, which I guess came from this guy. I don't know.
I'm also just thinking no one produced a single family photo. We never see them together in a picture.
No.
You know what I mean?
You just hear about these skiing trips that I promise you probably never happened.
Never happened.
So they ask her about the day of the shooting because this was the meeting 90 minutes earlier. She has a meeting about the math assignment and all those horrible things.
And she's trying to say the school counselor was nonchalant. She says the counselor didn't feel that the parents had to take him home, that he wasn't a risk.
Jennifer, I need you to be chalant.
I need
you to be chalant.
Especially if 2 hours ago you said you're a Costco boyfriend, I'm really afraid my son's going to do something stupid. Well, guess what? It's about to happen.
The meeting was pretty nonchalant.
Yeah.
Get chalant. So she says, the counselor didn't say my husband was a risk.
Right.
And the shooter wanted to stay at school. Jennifer wanted to, quote, go back to work. I'm like, okay, girl, which boyfriend are you meeting today?
I know. In the end, she says,
this is bizarre.
Of course, I look back after this all happened, and I've asked myself if I would have done anything differently, and I wouldn't have.
If you could change what happened, would you?
Oh, absolutely. I wish he would have killed us instead.
I wish he killed us instead.
Yeah, I think what she's saying is like there were no red flags, and without, but it's like, girl, what are you talking about?
What are you talking
there
about?
Were red flags everywhere.
I don't understand. What are you talking about?
I know.
I guess she had to go on the stand, but like,
yeah.
woof.
I mean,
yikes, whatever.
It goes to the jury, like whatever. She's found guilty on all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
Right, because she failed as a parent and ignored all the signs.
Right.
So 1 month later, the father's trial starts. So just to recap.
It's a lot of the same.
Yeah. The shooter is convicted, life without parole. The mother is convicted, 15 years, parole before 10. And now we get the father
dad
on trial. And so the defense is going to say, he had no idea. Bullshit. Because we hear these jailhouse calls and he's threatening our friend Karen and the prosecution. When I get out of here, I'm going on a fucking rampage, Karen. Yeah, Karen McDonald, your ass is going to go down and you better be fucking scared. And I'm like, ooh.
What are these people thinking?
Ooh, we don't want to do that.
No.
Now, see, you fucking bullshit. That is an appropriate Taylor Swift quote for the moment. Okay? You don't come in quoting fucking Bad Blood for a murder trial and for whatever the fuck. You do, ooh, I don't want to do that from Grimdark. Okay? I'm just saying. Because the prosecution is like, oh yeah? Really? You idiot. All of those phone calls are recorded. So now you don't get really any phone calls except your lawyer. So the prosecution's like, now I'm going to get the judge. This is why we can't have nice things. I'm taking away your fucking phone privileges.
Exactly.
Now you can only talk to your lawyer. How about that? You're going to threaten me?
Yeah. I mean, it's just insane. And like, just like, they've got all the evidence they need. Karen is just saying like, of course the parents knew about the gun. If they were truly shocked about the kid having the gun, because that's the whole thing. The defense is saying the dad didn't know that the gun was locked up. And like when they went down, when they were hauled in, if they truly didn't know.
There was no shock of like, wait, what?
He had the gun? Oh my God. Exactly.
None of that.
Exactly.
Which is like one of the first of many reactions that you would have, right?
Yes.
Horror, terror, fear. You know, like there was none of it.
And then in addition, they're saying that like the legal bar they have to clear is called foreseeability, just basically saying that they should have known that their son was a risk. And like we've said it a million times throughout the episode, he's begging for a doctor. He's seeing ghosts. He's telling them that he's depressed. Now he's got a gun. He's in love with the gun. Then the math homework with the gun drawing and the kid's dead and the blood everywhere.
They had about 1,000,001 opportunities to do the right thing and they never did it.
Yes.
That's really where we are here.
To be the absolute most generous, if your kid is in a school and he loves and he fetishizes guns and he's writing about killing people in the school, do something about it. Be overly cautious.
Yeah, ask a question.
Ask
maybe.
a question.
Be concerned. Like, I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect, but
Right.
my God, did this kid make it fucking clear?
Exactly.
He was suffering and something bad was going to happen.
Yes.
He wrote it down.
Over and over and over again.
Nobody, like, I just don't understand it. So the verdict is in. The father gets the same sentence as his wife. He's guilty on all 4 counts. He gets 15 years and possibility of parole in 10. There were no criminal charges against the school employees because of insufficient evidence.
Yeah.
And we get on-screen texts that say separate lawsuits were filed against the school and they've all been dismissed on the grounds of governmental immunity. So they're all like pending claims and appeals.
And then in the end, we learned the shooter was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, parents, we got to do better. And I'm including myself in this. Like, we got to pay attention. We got to listen to our kids. Just as a rule, if you're called down to the school because your kid is drawing guns and dead kids on a piece of paper, take them home that day. Get them an evaluation. You got to do it. You got to do it.
If your issue is like, whoa, the parents are going to start getting prosecuted, like
Right.
big old yikes to you.
I mean,
that's the wrong way to look at it.
If you're buying a gun for your 15-year-old kid, like, let's start there. Don't do that.
Just give a shit.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Just
Is it that hard?
Just give a shit, goddammit. More merch coming your way.
How many episodes have we done where we're just like, can you care for
I know,
5 seconds?
For 5 seconds.
My God.
My God.
Ugh.
Oh, girl, we did it. What's it called?
This is Sins of the Parents, the Crumbly Trials, and it's on Hulu.
Fam, I'm going to ask you again, join the Facebook group, please.
Sure,
It's the True Crime Obsessed podcast discussion group. Tell them how great it is.
It's really fun. There are like over 50,000 people in there.
52,000, I think, at this point. Yeah. And we're just sharing dog memes. We're sharing our lives. There's a whole bunch of like splinter meetup groups where people are like finding people in their own community. I'm doing the meetups this summer. That's all in the Facebook group. You can RSVP there.
Yeah. People are like celebrating milestones of some, like people are getting into law school and like passing the bar, graduating and doing
Somebody
fun
was
things.
looking for somebody to be the officiant for their wedding, and Suze jumped in. Suze from the Utah meetup group. She's doing it.
Oh my God, I love that.
We love you, Suze. All right, fam, we love you. What are we doing next, girl?
We are doing The Disappearance of the Bradley Sisters, and it's on Max.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I just stopped saying HBO Max like yesterday.
Oh, you did?
I think I have to go get with the times. It's just Max now,
When
right?
I was in London and I was trying to watch The Jinx, they don't have Max there. I couldn't watch it.
That's weird.
London, we got to get it figured out.
You weren't like seeing the sights. You were just sitting in bed watching the
just sitting in bed watching Max.
Okay.
All right, fam. Stay tuned for the trailer for that, and we love you.
We love you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
When Tracy entered her apartment from work on the morning of the 6th, around noonish, there was a note that was discovered in the house.
There was a note on the back of the couch. It said that they were going to the school and they was going up to the store. I find it odd.
And when we went up the stairs, my mom opened the door. My mom just knocked the TV over and got to crying and got to calling the family.
My sister, Marie, told Tracy, do not call the police. Let's just look for the kids, because if you call the police, they're going to take Vicky and Rita. I was scared. I wanted to find them, like on my own to see if I can find them, and see who house they went to, and just look around. So we went by the lake and all over there and everything, searching and asking, have you seen 2 little girls? They're like, no.
And in your mind, you're thinking, I left them alone. I could get in trouble for this.
Yes.
I've gotten really pulled into the Apple TV dramas lately. I've been watching the Jake Gyllenhaal one.
What is that? What is it called? Presumed Innocent, and it's like he's the DA. Does he say where Taylor's scarf is? Is that at Maggie's
Listen,
house?
I know. Oh, Skarsgård is in it too. Skarsgård plays the mean guy.
Okay.
I know. All you can do is red scarves for days. Then there's another one with Lady Mary from Downton Abbey plays the mom of this kid.
That.
Girl, what are we going to do? Like, we got to get on the same page with some TV shows.
Okay. Are you going to watch any of mine, or am I watching all of yours?
My list for you is Maisel, which your husband was on. No excuse.
Right.
Modern Family.
Okay.
You don't have to watch the Apple TV ones. It's fine. They're fine.
But I like the Apple TV ones, except remember that time, I think it was a cold open, and I was talking about that show Sugar that I really like?
Yeah.
Something happened. There was a twist. If you know, you know. And Mike and I've never been... I was like, ugh. Like that guy, like that TikTok, like, brother, ugh. Something happened, and if you watched it, you know what happened. And I was like, oh, come on.
Oh,
and
that's the
worst.
worst.
We were like, oh, is it Thursday? Is it Sugar Days? We were so into it. And then something happened, and I was like, I've never been so turned off.
Oh, my God.
And I never watched it again, and I never thought about it again. Isn't that crazy how that happens?
That is crazy.
But I've learned that I'm not alone. But like the other day, I was like, oh, I wonder how that ended. I don't really care.
Who cares?
But I loved everyone in it. Like Amy Ryan's in it, and she's fucking great.
Oh, my God.
But I do like the Apple TV shows.
Okay, well, anyway, hashtag justice for Modern Family. I'm never going to stop.
Oh, my God. How many seasons is it?
Like 10.
With like 28 episodes per.
Yeah,
right?
but
It's
they're
a
so good. And my daughter Daisy sings like Gloria.
You told me about this. She does the...
Like, that's how Gloria sings.
Yeah, okay, great.
Anyway.
I basically watched it.